After we revealed my pregnancy, my sister-in-law's scheme to shame me at my husband's party backfired, leaving her in jail and in a divorce. The plate landed on the table with a soft thud, a seemingly innocent gesture of reconciliation. But 5 minutes later, Jamie was vomiting, choking, his face contorting in an agony that would haunt my dreams for months. For 7 years, I've been married to Harry, a man I adore, a man who completes me. Every part of our life together is a joy, except for one persistent, corrosive element: his sister, Kayla. When I first met her, I genuinely liked her. I thought, this is great, I'm gaining a sister. But that illusion crumbled so quickly, revealing a woman who was manipulative, poisonous, and constantly draped in a thick shroud of negativity. I tried God, I tried so hard to stay on her good side, to appease her, because who wants family drama? You see, Kayla has a history. Harry told me how at 17 he dated her best friend, but only because Kayla had pushed it. He felt trapped, eventually ending it. Then, years later, when he was 23 and single, she tried again, pushing him towards another one of her friends. He flat out refused. And what did she do? She ran to their parents, crying, demanding Harry marry someone she was comfortable with. His parents, bless their hearts, largely ignored her theatrical outbursts back then. When Harry and I started dating, his parents were nothing but supportive, genuinely happy for us. Kayla, though, she was a block of ice. Every single time I was around, she'd find a way to casually bring up Harry's exes. "Oh, do you remember Sarah? She's doing so well now. You should really reach out to her, Harry." It wasn't subtle, it was a deliberate, pointed barb. Harry found it strange too, often asking her to stop, but it was like talking to a brick wall. And if he did, Kayla would erupt, mocking me, calling me jealous, declaring I wasn't good enough for her brother. This constant cycle of bringing up exes and then immediately accusing me of jealousy highlights a classic defense mechanism known as psychological projection. Kayla was likely projecting her own insecurities and desires for control onto me, attributing her negative feelings to my reactions. Her subsequent rage and mocking when challenged further demonstrate a pattern of emotional dysregulation, where an individual struggles to manage intense emotional responses, often resorting to aggression or manipulation when their desired outcome is not met. But that was only the beginning of the nightmare. She'd pull stunts like inviting one of Harry's exes to family dinners, claiming she'd inadvertently run into them and had to politely invite them. And my public Instagram, she was practically living on it. Every story, every photo, she was the first to see. If a man dared to comment on my picture, she'd rush to Harry, grumbling about my indecent images. Harry and I would just chuckle, bewildered by her antics. It was almost comical until it wasn't. When Harry and I decided to move in together, Kayla tried a full court press. She cornered him, telling him I had many defects as a woman, that he could find someone far better. That one actually stung. I'd always been nothing but friendly to her. When we finally announced our engagement, everyone cheered, everyone except Kayla. She just sat there, silent, until suddenly, she sprang up from her chair and stormed out of the room. Later, she called Harry, sobbing, screaming that she, the closest person to him, deserved to be the first to know. Then came the message, borderline threatening, telling me how I should treat her brother, because she had always been the only female in his life. I felt a shiver run down my spine reading that. I left it on read, not even bothering to dignify it with a response, which I'm sure only enraged her more. She started to ignore me completely whenever we were in the same room. Yet, bizarrely, she inserted herself into every aspect of the wedding preparations, from dress shopping to my bridal shower. Harry and his parents tried to call her out, but her criticism of my decisions reached a whole new level of audacity. The tipping point arrived one day when Kayla overheard me talking about centerpiece designs with my future mother-in-law. She immediately launched into a tirade mocking my choice, declaring it had no class, and reiterating her desire for Harry to marry someone better. My blood ran cold, then hot. The air caught in my throat. I snapped. I told her, my voice shaking with a fury I hadn't known I possessed, that she was no longer invited to our wedding. I couldn't stand her endless taunting, her constant criticism, not one more second. She stood there, jaw agape, gasping in surprise, as if the thought of me ever challenging her had never crossed her mind. Even my mother-in-law, who was usually so diplomatic, backed me up, infuriated by Kayla's behavior. Kayla then tried to spin it to Harry, wailing about how I had embarrassed her, insisting he could control his future wife. But Harry, bless him, stood firm. He told her if she didn't apologize, genuinely, she wouldn't be at the wedding. She grudgingly sent me a text, a forced apology. I saw it, and again left it on read. I was too exhausted, too wrapped up in wedding planning, to deal with her drama. In the end, I let her come to the wedding. Call me naive, but I just wanted to avoid her post-wedding criticism, the inevitable, she didn't even invite me narrative. Everyone else, all our guests, embraced our pink and pastel theme. Kyla, though, she arrived looking like she was attending a funeral, a black, full-length gown, with a veil. We were stunned, truly, physically shocked. She spent the reception cornering guests, sharing her grief at losing her brother to another woman. Harry, his face tight with anger, approached her. She played the victim naturally, claiming she had the right to wear what she chose, that I was too domineering. When she continued her non-stop scene-making, my mother-in-law and father-in-law finally decisively ordered her to leave. It was humiliating for everyone. From that day on, I avoided her. When our son Nate was born, I made it clear Kayla was not to be anywhere near him. She tried to fight it, but my in-laws, who had witnessed her toxicity firsthand, stood by me completely. They understood why I wanted her far from my infant. It was around this time that we learned Kayla had suffered a miscarriage with her then boyfriend Jamie 2 years prior. It had utterly shattered her. That was a truly depressing period for everyone. Given our own joyful, chaotic journey into parenthood, Harry and I felt a pang of sympathy. We decided to be a bit more lenient, allowing her supervised contact with Nate. She was surprisingly lovely to him, actually almost a different person. For a while, we hoped even, she had changed, but she quickly reverted to her old self. She constantly bemoaned her difficult life. How? Nothing ever went right, always blaming ex-friends or managers for her misfortunes. Over time, I realized a pattern in her mind. She was never wrong. She relentlessly played the victim card, refusing to acknowledge any personal flaws. When she decided to get married to Jamie, we expected an invitation, given our perceived truce. Harry was genuinely surprised when we didn't receive one. When we finally asked her why, given I'd done nothing to her, she explained she didn't want me to cause a disturbance at her wedding. I called her, my voice laced with disbelief. Why would you think I'd do that? And that's when she confessed, quite brazenly, that she had deliberately worn all black to our wedding, and now she was worried I'd do the same. I couldn't wrap my head around it. I told Harry, straight up, how utterly manipulative she was. He was outraged. After a conversation with his parents, Harry told Kayla they wouldn't be attending, nor would they be contributing financially. Kayla dissolved into tears, blaming me for starting this disaster. Even Jamie, her fiancé, told her she had no right to point fingers, especially after admitting her own malice. Kayla, however, brushed it off, saying I should just get over it because our wedding was long ago. Kayla's consistent pattern of blaming others, refusing accountability, and expecting exceptions to rules are hallmarks of narcissistic behavior. Her outright admission of deliberately sabotaging the narrator's wedding and then projecting that fear onto the narrator for her own wedding is a clear example of victim blaming and a profound lack of self-awareness. This inability to internalize fault and constant need to control narratives are deeply ingrained and rarely shift without significant intervention. Later, she called me, apologizing profusely, begging for forgiveness. Why? Because her parents-in-law and ours were still refusing to pay for her wedding. I hate to admit it, but Kayla, when she wants something, can be incredibly charming, unbelievably convincing. I just wanted to move past the drama, so I forgave her. Her wedding to Jamie went off without a hitch. We all went. We all had fun. Less than 6 months later, though, she was at our door, grumbling about her failing marriage. Harry and I let her stay for a few days. She spent endless hours venting about Jamie, blaming him entirely for their struggles to conceive. When she wasn't fixated on her own marital woes, she was hyper, focused on our lives, trying to conjure problems where none existed. For instance, I usually hit the gym every morning before work. Sometimes, if I'm running late, I'll grab my work clothes and change at the gym. Kayla noticed this routine and started asking endless questions. Why are you bathing there? Why do you even need to go to the gym? I shrugged it off, telling her I liked to stay fit and hated showing up to the office sweaty. She'd just nod, licking her lips in a way that always made me uneasy. Then came that lunch. My mother-in-law was telling us about a friend who was divorcing, having left her husband and taken half his assets after discovering his adultery. Mid-sentence, Kayla abruptly cut her off, turning to Harry. Did you and your wife sign a prenup before you got married? The table fell silent. My fork paused halfway to my mouth. Everyone just stared. She looked at Harry expectantly, as if I wasn't even there. Harry, never one to mince words, told her flat out that he and I both made good money, and we saw no need for one. Kayla snorted. You could be blindsided any day, she sneered. Cheats abound these days. Her words felt like a slap. I felt a cold dread settle in my stomach. What exactly do you mean by that, Kayla? I asked, my voice dangerously calm. That's when she really leaned into it, hinting that I was obviously meeting someone, because I carried a change of clothes everywhere. She claimed it was her obligation as Harry's sister to warn him. My in-laws immediately jumped in, trying to shut her down, telling her not to interfere. But she didn't miss a beat. She kept insisting she was only trying to be there for her brother. Then, with a chilling smirk, she joked, "Are you even sure Nate is Harry's son? He doesn't quite look like him." I saw it, the slow flush of pure, incandescent rage creep up Harry's neck, turning his face a terrifying crimson. In all our years together, I had never seen him so enraged. He looked Kayla dead in the eye. "You." He bit out, his voice low and shaking. "You're not a mother yet. You don't deserve to be one. Your child would be better off in paradise than with someone like you." Kayla's lips hung open, stunned disbelief etched on her face. My in-laws watched silent as Harry unleashed a torrent of pent anger. He called her a shameless person, a loser, doing nothing all day while her husband worked non-stop. He told her she was clearly projecting and should focus on her own miserable marriage instead of tearing down ours. Reduced to tears, Kayla started to wail, turning to Jamie for comfort. He just sat there, silent, immobile. Harry, my usually calm, collected Harry, was having a complete mental breakdown. I gently stroked his hand as my mother-in-law rushed over to cool him down. I nodded, my heart heavy, as Harry apologized for what his sister had said about our son. But a part of me, a deep, tired part, felt a perverse sense of relief. After years of enduring Kayla's poison, my husband had finally, publicly, stood up for me. After he cooled down, Harry apologized to Jamie, but completely ignored Kayla. From that day, we cut her off. Her actions were impacting Harry now, not just me. A year passed, mostly peacefully. Then, 2 months ago, I discovered I was expecting again. It was a surprise, honestly, given our relaxed approach, but a blessed one. We decided to announce our wonderful news on Harry's birthday at a big celebration our in-laws were hosting. Kayla, somehow, heard about it, and she showed up. She stumbled towards us, arms outstretched to Harry, telling him how much she'd missed him. Harry, still holding my hand, told her she owed me an apology for questioning my character. She nodded, turned to me, and gave a stilted apology. She claimed she'd been in therapy for months and finally understood how inappropriate her behavior had been. I didn't believe a word of it, but I nodded, wanting to be polite at Harry's party. My in-laws discreetly checked on us, offering to kick her out if we felt uncomfortable, as they hadn't known she was coming. But Harry, wanting no scene, told them to let it go. It was strange. Kayla laughed, socialized, radiating an unnatural optimism. I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt, even though it felt completely unlike her. When it was time to cut the cake, Harry spoke beautifully, saying he was the luckiest man on earth, grateful for another year with me. My cheeks flushed with joy. We were still so intensely in love, just like when we first started dating. Then Harry and I exchanged a grin. "We have some fantastic news," he announced. "We're having a baby!" The crowd paused, then erupted in delight. My mother rushed to hug me, tears streaming down her face. My father-in-law saluted Harry. Everyone was buzzing, asking about names, genuinely thrilled. Kayla, though, she was the one sore thumb, the only one who didn't join the joyous chorus. She seemed stunned, her mood shifting instantly. She turned away, irritated. I thought maybe she just needed time to process. I was distracted by well-wishers until I got up to help my in-laws with lunch, only to be gently pushed back down by Harry and my parents. "You shouldn't be moving at all right now," they insisted. That's when Kayla approached me, beaming, an unsettlingly bright smile on her face. "I want to personally bring you your dinner," she chirped. "I'm so excited about your pregnancy." She handed me a plate. "I want to make it up to you for all the times I was nasty," she added. I nodded, politely accepting. But as I took the plate, ready to dig in, I saw it shrimp. I have a severe allergy. My heart sank. Disappointed, I shook my head and went to get my own food. Jamie approached, wishing me well on the pregnancy. When he saw the plate I was holding, I pointed out the shrimp, assuming Kayla had made an innocent mistake. "Oh, I love shrimp," he said, reassuring me not to worry, and took the plate from my hands, telling me he'd eat it. I grinned, relieved, and turned to get a fresh meal. Not even 5 minutes later, Jamie began to gag, to retch violently over the plate. The entire party froze. Everyone watched, horrified, as he staggered, clutching his throat, his face turning an alarming shade of green. Harry and Kayla rushed to his side. Jamie gestured wildly at the plate, then at his throat before collapsing unconscious. A collective gasp rose from the crowd. Kayla, eyes wide with dawning horror, looked at the plate, then turned to me. Did you hand my husband my plate?" she whispered, her voice laced with accusation. Someone called an ambulance. Amidst the chaos as Jamie was rushed to the hospital, Kayla just stood there, sobbing, staring at me with pure, unadulterated hatred. Later, we were told Jamie had been poisoned. The chilling realization hit me like a physical blow that plate was originally meant for me. I nearly fainted. The thought that I could have been poisoned, that my unborn baby could have been harmed, left me paralyzed with terror. Harry, my in-laws, my own parents, they didn't know the full extent of it. No one knew what was in the food, or that it was intended for me. The police were called. My in-laws, shaken to their core, refused to go home, sleeping at our house. No one could comprehend how everything could unravel so abruptly. The idea of telling the police that Kayla had deliberately given me that plate, knowing what was on it, filled me with a deep, paralyzing fear. My sister-in-law, a woman who showed no restraint, no moral compass, had tried to poison me. The guilt gnawed at me. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Harry saw I was troubled, but thought I was just worried about Jamie. I knew I had to tell them, and then it hit me my in-laws had security cameras all around the backyard. My hands shaking, I approached them, Harry by my side. I took a deep breath and told them everything. How Kayla had handed me the shrimp, how Jamie had offered to eat it. My mother-in-law, ever the pragmatist, immediately suggested checking the footage. We watched, silent, as the cold, hard truth played out on the screen. Kayla, smiling, presenting the poisoned plate to me. Harry's face turned from confusion to utter fury. His parents were horrified. There was no denying it. The footage was indisputable. The police got the footage. Within days, Kayla was arrested. She didn't fight it. She confessed everything right away, dissolving into tears. Jamie was as stunned as any of us. Harry spoke to him, assuring him he was still family, no matter what. He urged Jamie to press charges. Once Jamie recovered, he did exactly that and filed for divorce. Kayla, now pregnant herself, tried to manipulate my in-laws, begging them to bail her out, claiming it was for their granddaughter. But my father-in-law, his voice firm, told her they were done coddling her. My mother-in-law, though heartbroken, knew some actions simply couldn't be forgiven. The police found the evidence, confirming she had tampered with the meal meant for me, which had tragically backfired on her husband. She was charged with risking life, causing harm, and food tampering. Her court hearing began shortly after. I never attended, but my in-laws kept me updated. Kayla, in court, finally admitted it all. Years of burning jealousy. She had always wanted Harry to marry one of her best friends, not an outsider. When we announced our pregnancy, she had been enraged, because she was also pregnant and wanted her announcement to be the center of attention. She confessed to mixing a little bit of rat poison into my supper, intending for me to end up in the hospital but never meaning to physically harm the baby or me. She even tried to argue for a reduced sentence, claiming I had essentially poisoned her husband by giving him the plate. The judge, thankfully, saw through her twisted logic. Kayla went to prison. She will be out of our lives for a very long time. Kayla's consistent behavior, culminating in this horrific act, is a profound example of a toxic individual who has designated the narrator as a scapegoat. This often happens in dysfunctional family systems where one person is unfairly blamed for all problems, allowing others to avoid accountability. Her deep-seated jealousy and inability to process her own trauma without externalizing it into malice towards the narrator also points to toxic enmeshment within the family dynamic, where boundaries are blurred and one member's identity becomes overly intertwined with another's, leading to destructive attempts at control when that bond is threatened. Jamie, finally free, has become a cherished part of our extended family. He reassured me countless times that it was never my fault, even as I tearfully apologized for handing him that plate, wishing I could undo that moment. Seeing him heal, thrive, makes my heart ache a little less. Harry and our family now includes a beautiful baby daughter. Her presence has warmed and lit up our lives, pushing back against the lingering shadows of the past. Our son, Nate, is the most loving, caring big brother. Seeing our children connect, grow, it's a profound joy that reminds us what truly matters. My parents and in-laws have been our rock, guiding us through every difficult conversation, every step of this new phase. We've had to have a tough but vital conversation with Nate about his aunt, explaining to him the importance of boundaries and confronting destructive behavior. And for me, I'm still working through my deep-seated fear of outside food. It's a journey, but Harry is by my side every step of the way, helping me heal. This entire experience, a living nightmare, forced us to confront the very definition of family and loyalty. It makes you wonder, at what point do you sever ties with someone, even family, when their actions cross an unforgivable line? If this story resonated with you, perhaps you've encountered similar patterns of toxic behavior in your own life. Understanding the psychological underpinnings of manipulation, projection, and victim blaming isn't just academic, it's a vital tool for self-preservation. Learning to recognize these red flags and, more importantly, establishing firm boundaries can empower you to protect your emotional and physical well-being. Consider researching how to identify and navigate relationships with individuals exhibiting narcissistic traits. And remember, your safety and peace of mind are non-negotiable. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell for more insights into the complex tapestry of human behavior.